What's up, guys? Chris Marler here, SDS. It is National Signing Day 2022, and it is like most things that have happened post 2020. It's just a giant, I don't say disappointment, Connor, but it's a little bit underwhelming because of the way National Signing Day has become. That being said, I'm joined by my good buddy and coworker here, Connor O'Gara, who is our senior national columnist. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm eating some crow right now after the Danny Lewis thing, because I definitely I banged the drum. I said after Brian Kelly went viral yet again over the weekend for the Danny Lewis thing, I was like, look, Brian Kelly he's taking dub after dub. This is a great thing.
That was the title of the video.
Oh, and then 3 days later, don't you know, Danny Lewis ends up in Alabama. And just a couple people are making jokes. Not too many people, just a handful of people on Twitter.
That's good. I mean, so and now that I'm thinking about it, and I don't want to deter anybody from going to watch our other videos because they're fantastic. And this is my new role with the company. I'm excited about it. But now that I'm just taking some inventory after you said that, I'm thinking, it's Wednesday. We posted 2 videos this week. One was about Brian Kelly's wins, and the other one was about Harbaugh not going to the NFL and Caleb Williams going to Wisconsin. So we're off to a fantastic start here at SDS YouTube. That being said, so I want to get into a couple things with you that just generic, not generic stuff. We'll get into some specifics, but talk about the transfer portal and not just the impact it's having, obviously, but looking at it specifically to the SEC, because there's been so many different people that have entered it. And it's honestly hard to make a list of who you think would make the biggest impact. But I do want to go over that with you, and you tell me who you think, a specific player or a team that's made the impact. And I'll start by saying, I've watched everyone, praise Brian Kelly, what he's done at LSU. And despite the title of, just getting dub after dub, I still think he's had a fantastic start to his career there, but he's been able to do Baton Rouge, as long as he doesn't do his stupid accent. And then you look, a lot's been made about what Kiffin's done at Ole Miss, because I think he's currently ranked number 1 in the portal rankings for team rankings. And of course, he tweeted out, his self pat on the back there after he was crowned that. But my biggest impact, I feel like, is I would say Arkansas, and that's a team that you and I are both fond of, and we love Pittman and what he's been able to do there, the quick turnaround. But I understand the amount of people you're bringing in at these other places, but Arkansas loses some pretty impactful, that I don't want to say are generational players, but for where that program was, it's hard to argue that they wouldn't be that level of importance. Talk about Traylon Burks leaving, right, for the draft.
Yep.
And then you lose 3 different linebackers that have all been there since 1988. And you lose all of them. And then what do they do in the portal? On top of having a great recruiting class, you bring in former 5-star Hazelwood from Oklahoma.
Yep.
And he can step in right away. And then you also bring in a guy like Drew Sanders, who didn't play for a lot at the end of the year with Bama, but it's a former 5-star linebacker that can step in right away.
Dallas Turner played instead of him. Yeah.
Right. And Dallas Turner is a monster. He's a preseason All-American. So it's I think Drew Sanders is going to be a stud. And I look at what they were able to do in those 2 specific areas of need, and they were able to address those, not only address them, but put elite talent there. I think that's fantastic.
What's kind of cool is you're seeing programs like Arkansas, Ole Miss, South Carolina say, hey, we're going to work through the portal, and we're going to kind of let that develop our talent level so that we don't have to necessarily have these big setback years. We talked about knowing that Florida was going to be in for a setback year in 2021.
Right.
And yeah, Dan Mullen made some moves in the portal. You bring in a Bretton Cox, of course, that makes some waves. And some of the running backs they're bringing in, you think, all right, there's promise here. But really, this has been about trying to elevate your floor and to not have that big drop off year where you look around and you're like, oh man, this guy is probably a year away from starting here.
Right.
Or 2 deep here is really not that great. And instead you go out and you get guys who are ready to play. And I think it's going to help those programs. At least it looks like right now, they're the ones that are benefiting the most. Mm-hmm. And for a program like LSU or Florida, who instead of coming in and having to deal with that massive turnover with the loss of personnel, right. Billy Napier and Brian Kelly have both been extremely active in the portal. And that's not going away anytime soon. I think that's a net positive. Now mm-hmm. you can get into the other details of the portal and say whether or not you think it's positive or negative, but I kind of like that. And I like that these programs are being able to say, hey, we can plug and play this guy right away. Drew Sanders would not have transferred in the pre-2021 transfer portal rules, wherein you couldn't transfer as an undergrad and play immediately. You also couldn't transfer within the SEC and play immediately. So there are things that are now opening up for teams like that.
Well, I think what's interesting about it too is like, I know a lot of people are traditionalists. People hate change, right? In all areas of life. So it's very difficult for people to jump on board with this. And one of the reasons why too is that it's just so much. It is so much. Like one of the best days I've had here in my 5 years at SDS was we talked to Josh Pate. And when he admitted that it was like, it's so much to keep up with, I was like, okay, thank God we can admit that, right? Because I felt like I was like the only one, like just like overwhelmed with all these, the numbers in the portal. But when you look at like some of the people that have been able to go in there, one of the things I thought was going to be cool was like, you were going to start to see this influx of players from smaller schools that didn't get a look out of high school or maybe developed or grew or whatever, right? During that like 18 to 20-year-old range. So then you can end your career at an SEC school. And it's a pretty cool moment for guys like that might still not make it in the NFL, but like, you go from a guy from Western Kentucky to LSU. That's awesome. Like, that's a really cool moment. It also has now obviously opened up the door for like almost like a one and done for players that are really good. They were highly recruited and still played at the school. I'm talking specifically about Jermaine Burton, for them to go kind of do a one and done at a different school where they get even more opportunities. I don't look at that as something that is selfish. They couldn't cut it. Go get paid, dude. I mean, like the difference between the offense that's running at Georgia versus Bama is, especially at that position, is staggeringly different.
Yeah, like look at a kid. Who's it? I think it's Osiris Torrance is the name of the offensive lineman that Billy Napier got from Louisiana Lafayette. Call it Louisiana Lafayette. Do whatever you want. Yeah, came from the Raging Cajuns. He was. Right. And goes to Florida, and you see this guy now showing up on the way too early preseason All-American teams. That's a positive for somebody like that. Now, if we're really getting into the weeds and trying to figure out like, hey, is this going to be a good thing for everyone overall? I would probably say it's a case-by-case basis. Right. I tend to say I like seeing kids get an opportunity instead of waiting on the bench, which that's what they're trying to do. It doesn't work out that way with all these guys. And we're going to see, like, the thing that we're going to start to see is, quarterback transferred because he wasn't starting and he goes to another place and he's still not transferred, or he's still not starting. It's like the Keller Chris thing in Tennessee a few years ago, where he goes from wearing 4 knee braces at Stanford to transferring to Tennessee, only to still be on the sideline wearing 4 knee braces there. And so like, there's stuff like that. Yeah. That's, by the way, I definitely stole that from you. Well,
I was thinking too, is like you bring up a good point with that, because USC, we're not making enough out of this. USC,
we need to talk about this, because Lincoln Riley comes out after he gets Caleb Williams and says we need regulation of the transfer portal.
Oh my God.
That beforehand, man. Come on.
You know why he didn't say it beforehand? Because he didn't mean it beforehand. He got what he needed, and now he's like,
he doesn't need it now.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So okay, let's close with this, because I do want to talk about, like, and it'll probably be a seamless transition about the Jackson Dart stuff, but I don't think we're talking enough about the fact that, like, despite how average to below average this program has been for much of the last decade, or really since they, maybe 2008, even with USC, right? They've still been able to sign, it seems like, a 5-star quarterback like once every couple of years, and keep that position still like at this like lofted pedestal that we've, kind of like held them accustomed to. Or I looked at the transfer portal a while back, and you're looking at the rankings at each position. There were 3 former 5-star quarterbacks from USC that were in the portal at the same time. Jackson Dart, JT Daniels, and what was the other kid's name? Keaton Slovis. And Keaton
Slovis.
Yeah. And so you're like, because JT Daniels gets hurt, obviously, but Slovis takes over and puts up this incredible freshman year. And the fact that all 3 of those guys are in the portal is mind blowing to me, because it's like, and you saw it this year with Bama, with the running back situation, where you just have this like crazy stretch where you have injuries at like every single part of your depth chart. And you look at like a guy like Keelan Williams who left, and you're like, you would have been getting like a lot of reps. You would have been getting like incredible playing time. What are your thoughts on the fact that not like, I guess the Tate Martell thing, don't shoot your shot twice, or whatever it was, like don't miss twice, because just a little bit of patience, I think, would help pay off, but it's hard to do that if you're 18 years old.
It's really hard. And it's different. Look, I respect the Kirk Herbstreits of the world. I really, really do. But he is the last person I want to hear about this from, because he is the type of, you can go back to his playing career. I got his book sitting up right here. Sick brag. Nice. I read it. I read books, whatever.
You read the whole thing?
Yeah, I read the whole thing.
I haven't even cracked these bad boys. Just got them at the airport.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I got like 6 here that I've been meaning to read. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, hey, here's a book. Like, I have this person on the podcast. And I'm like, I'll get to it. I promise. In season and stuff. Off-season project.
There
definitely.
you go.
But okay, what were we talking about again? We're talking about,
your opinion on like the patience part of it. And then like, as it has affected the SEC with Jackson Dart.
Okay, so the Herb Street thing, like Herb Street telling me about the transfer portal and about how guys don't want to stay anymore is such a tough thing to hear about, because he grew up as this diehard Ohio State fan, and like he waited his turn there, and he even admitted in hindsight he like went to the wrong program based on the scheme fit, and he should have went to Michigan instead. So like Herb Street stays at Ohio State. He has zero chance of like becoming a pro guy, and then he's like, I'd give anything to go back and have that opportunity. The money is also so much different now.
Right.
Like the money for being a premier quarterback in the NFL. And in the NFL right now, I think it's 9 of the 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL transferred at one point in their college careers.
What about you gave this up the other day, the playoff, the total amount of players that were in the NFL playoffs was like 9 of, you gave the stat the other day in one of our conference calls. I should have put you on the spot, but it's like, that was the
stat that I just gave you.
Okay. Never mind. I just heard it wrong. My bad.
Yeah. So as it relates with somebody like Jackson Dart, like Jackson Dart, and sick brag, just talked to Mark Sanchez about this.
Nice.
He said coaching staff kind of realized, Lincoln Riley, Jackson Dart kind of realized, all right, some of the things that they were going to do offensively that wasn't quite Jackson Dart's skill set. They both kind of realized that it wasn't going to be a fit. And that's why you move on, you go to a place like Ole Miss where Lane can make anything work. There's no more exactly. There's no person better equipped to handle a variety of quarterbacks than Lane Kiffin. Like he'll make whatever work with you. So that I think makes so much sense. And when you get a new coach, like why wouldn't these kids be able to leave, especially when your program makes this drastic change? I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I think that the fact that like you bring these kids in, I remember like when I went to college to play baseball, we've talked about this 1,000 times, but like, I don't know if I've told you that I remember my coach telling me, and one of my best friends now, he was a teammate. He's like, I was a redshirt. I redshirted my freshman year, and then I was a freshman and I was traveling to do all that kind of stuff. I had a very small role because I played first base, and every other first baseman we had wasn't 6 feet, 190 pounds like I was. They were all like 6'4", 230. So I remember he looked at me one day, he goes, there's just no reason you're even here. And I was like, that's, hurtful. I don't know why you bring that up. And he was like, like you should be at JUCO getting reps, like go to JUCO.
Yeah.
And that's always been frowned upon in the sport of football, I think. Cause it's like, there's some negative stigma with it, or a stigma.
Short lifespan.
Yeah. It's like a stigmatism, as Kayvon Thibodeau would say. But the negative stigma is like, it's something with, their grades or their, off the field issues and all that kind of stuff. You look at this now and like, that's what we're seeing, but we're just seeing it with accredited Division I universities attached to these people's names. And I don't think that it's not going to slow down or anything like that, because it's definitely not getting regulated anytime soon. But yeah, man, I think that the way you brought it up is a perfect example about the Jackson Dart thing, because that for that specific kid, that kid's college career, it's like everybody would be envious of it, right? Like you go to USC and then
is it stay at USC now?
I don't, it's very odd. And I think the thing you brought up too about Lincoln Riley, and it is funny to watch this whole process kind of slow down with signing day. And now you're hearing these coaches like start to, now that they've gotten all the things they need and they've done it however they needed to do it.
Yeah.
You've seen a few people make some quotes that are like, sir, like you brought up the Lincoln Riley thing.
Can I make a comp for you?
Go ahead.
Make a comp?
Yeah.
And this is going to hit home, and we can close after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever listened to a pastor that has...
For those who don't know, my mom is a pastor. That's what this is good.
I'm not saying specific to your mom. I'm just saying in general. And maybe because your mom is a pastor, you haven't had this... you haven't had like a ton... Like I've been in a lot of different places. I've heard like... Not to get like religious or anything like that. I've heard a variety of different pastors speak from different regions of the country and stuff like that. And every once in a while, you'll hear a pastor who has this wild testimony.
Bro, yeah.
And then you'll
get tattoos on his arm and everything.
Yeah, like crazy stuff that they did when they were young. And then when they got older and they settled down and then they started preaching. And it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
But you also still had that time in your life in which you were wild and crazy and you kind of did whatever you wanted to. So for you to sit here and tell someone who's younger, it's a little bit tough because you've already been through it and you've already experienced it. And there is a certain part of that I feel like I'm reliving now, hearing some of these coaches like Lincoln Riley talk about we need regulation, transfer portal. When you just go out and get Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I love that comp too, because I know exactly what you're talking about. Because it's like, you want to live a life like me? You just go out here and do a bunch of drugs and have promiscuous women everywhere. And then it's like, well, what's the end result, sir? You work at this, you have a great job and everyone seems to love you now. So no, that's a fantastic point. We'll call it a day from there, and we'll have to do this again next week. But Connor, I appreciate you joining us, and tell everyone where they can find you. You got some big stuff coming down the pipe, not just written on STS, but also with the podcast. So go ahead.
Yes. Saturday Down South podcast. Go subscribe wherever you podcast. SaturdayDownSouth.com. We have just tons and tons of great content right now. Like I always say, like Adam always crushes starting 5. Matt Hayes does such a great job with 1st and 10. We just have a million news stories that are up constantly with the portal, with signing day, with all these different things. So go check out all that stuff. And yes, please. And like the YouTube page, by the way.
Yeah. And stay, I was going to say, like everyone does a great job with on the website as well. He's right about that. And it's my promise to everyone watching, at some point, we're going to do one of these videos and it's not going to be outdated and wrong less than 24 hours later. So until next time, we'll see you then, guys.